Hey Hockey Nuts, Wayne here. Just experimenting with a few camera slash mic setups, so if the video audio is not up to standard, I apologize for that. But as I try to do a lot of these videos, we're going to go ahead and experiment a few ways of doing it. I've got a couple different cameras. I got a regular DSLR camera and a camcorder, webcams. I don't know how I'm going to ultimately do this on a day-to-day basis, but we're experimenting with a new setup tonight, so let's go ahead and do this. This is actually a board that was set up a couple of days ago. It's a little bit old at this point, but I'm going to go ahead and make the video anyway because, again, we're in practice mode here, and quite frankly, not many people are watching at this point in the channel's history. So let's go ahead and do this. What this is games from Saturday the 17th. That was a couple of days ago now. And we'll go through it. This is the results of the night, and we'll go through it game by game and just go ahead and just talk about each game. Few minutes on each game. So first game of the day that day was 1 p.m. Eastern time. It was LA at Buffalo. LA coming into the game 30, 22, and 5. Buffalo coming into the game 17, 30, and 11. Buffalo's clearly out of the playoff picture at this point. And actually, I'm going to slide out of the way so you can see the board completely. So if I fall out of the picture, don't worry. You should still be able to hear me just fine. But ultimately, LA won this game 4-2. Quick with 33 saves on the night on the win. Lehner with 26 saves in the loss. LA snapping a 3-game losing streak in this game. Kopitar and Amadio each with 2 goals in that game. Pretty straightforward, where LA is fighting for a playoff spot. Buffalo is just playing for pride at this point. And ultimately, LA comes out with the win. Couple of 2 p.m. games, first one of which the Ducks at the Wild. And this was your 8-9 game, or 8th place, 9th place in the West. So this game had huge playoff ramifications for both teams. And ultimately the game was as entertaining as expected. Ducks come out with a 3-2 shootout win. This was an 11-round shootout. And ultimately Ritchie got the shootout winner. There were a couple other players that got shootout goals in that game, but Ritchie ultimately was the difference in that one, scoring in the 11th round. And the Wild player that shot did not. So on the night, Gibson got 36 saves in the win. Dubnyk with 29 saves in the loss. Next game, also a 2 o'clock game, Rangers at Ottawa. This is 2 teams that are both sitting on the outside looking in. Neither team really has a legitimate shot at making the playoffs. The Rangers basically didn't show up for this game. Ottawa come out and won this game 6-3. Henrik Lundqvist and Halverson both saw time in this game. Halverson came in at 7:25 of the third after Lundqvist gave up, I think he gave up 5. He may have given up all 6 in this game. I didn't see the game, obviously. On this day, and just to footnote all of this, Steve, the Hockey Nuts podcast co-host, and I took a drive to Charlotte to go see a Charlotte Checkers game that night. So I didn't see most of this action. All I saw was highlights and stuff after the fact. So anyway, back to this game. Grabner got 2 goals for the Rangers, and Anderson made 35 saves in the winning effort there. And one of the keynotes on Buffalo, they had 6 different goals. Not Buffalo, Ottawa. That's Ottawa. 6 different goal scorers in that game for Ottawa. So they definitely spread the wealth in that one. Next game, again, 2 teams that were on the outside looking in. 2 teams that are way out of the playoff hunt and are probably not going to make it. It was a 4 o'clock game. Oilers at Coyotes. And ultimately, this game was a pretty good game if you like low-scoring affairs. Hockey purists would have really loved this one. 1-0 was the final score. Arizona beating Edmonton. Talbot with 31 saves in the effort. Antti Ranta, 40 saves in the winning effort. Christian Dvorak got the goal for Arizona in that game. And of course, that extends the Oilers' losing streak in this one to 6 games, and Arizona extends their winning streak to 4. So, good game all around for Arizona. Not so much for the Oilers. They got a lot of shots on net, just couldn't beat the goaltender in Arizona, and Antti Ranta. Okay, next game. First of the evening games, 7 p.m. start. Vegas at home against Montreal. Vegas ultimately comes out with the 6-3 win in that one. Antti Niemi got the start in net for Montreal, and after just 6 shots and 3 goals, he got pulled. Carey Price ended up finishing the game, getting 25 saves the rest of the way. Montreal's losing streak is now 3 after this game. Vegas' winning streak is now 3. Fleury with the winning effort on the Vegas side with 30 saves. Riley Smith 2 goals, and Marchessault with 3 assists in that game. Next game, New Jersey at Tampa. Final score, 4-3 New Jersey. But if you look at the shots on goal, Eddie Lack was in net for New Jersey, made 48 saves. Vasilevsky, the starter for Tampa Bay, made 24 saves. So even though Jersey came out with a win in this one, by all things on paper, it looked like Tampa Bay was vastly outshooting New Jersey in this game, and ultimately New Jersey was able to hold on for the win. That brings New Jersey's winning streak to 3 in that game, and for Tampa, their winning, well, I wouldn't call it a winning streak. They lost the game after winning one. So, okay, next game. Toronto at Pittsburgh. In my mind, this was the game of the night. Toronto coming into the game was 9-1 in their last 10, winning 5 in a row. Pittsburgh coming into this game 8-1-1 in their last 10, winning their last 3. So 2 of the hottest teams in the NHL at this point. And the game was not a disappointment. It was a good game. Saw the highlights of it, and I kind of wish I saw the whole thing live. But the game was going back and forth all night long. Ultimately, Pittsburgh, the home team, comes away with the win 5-3 over Toronto. Anderson in net for Toronto made 34 saves. Matt Murray in net for Pittsburgh made 29 saves. Malkin and Rust each with a goal and 2 assists for Pittsburgh. But all around a very entertaining game, particularly if you're a fan of one of these 2 teams. Of course, if you're a Toronto fan, you're disappointed. But, you know, Pittsburgh's on fire right now, and they're looking like a very tough team to beat. All right. The 8 p.m. game, and there was really only one at 8. Detroit at Nashville. Mrazek in net for Detroit, 31 saves. And Saros, Nashville's backup, was in net for Nashville. He made 31 saves. So very even game in terms of shots on goal. But Mrazek comes out with the win, 3-1 in that game. Interesting stat on that. Mrazek is now 6-0 against Nashville lifetime. So, and that was actually, I saw an article, that was a fact that he didn't even know until right before that game started, that he was 5-0 against Nashville. He just didn't realize. So he's now 6-0, and just kind of a trip-up game there for Nashville, because Detroit's really not going to make the playoffs this year. But Nashville is definitely going to make the playoffs and probably contend for a cup. All right, our 8:30 game of the night, Washington at Chicago. This was one of the big surprises for me tonight, or that night. And in that the final score ended up being 7-1. And you would think with the season that Washington's having and the season that Chicago's having that it would be a 7-1 game for Capitals. No. 7-1 Chicago wins. Chicago breaks their 6-game losing streak in a big way with that big win. In fact, Holtby got the start in net for Washington, and they finally pulled him after giving up the 6th goal in that game. Grubauer went the rest of the way. Holtby with 27 saves, Grubauer with 10 to finish out the game. Once Chicago went up, once they scored their 6th goal, that was pretty much how that one ended there. And Anton Forsberg went the distance for Chicago, making just 19 saves all night. So Washington manages just 20 shots on net. So all around a very good game for Chicago. I didn't see any of it, but by looking at it, I'm guessing that Washington just wasn't in the mood to play that night. So they ultimately just gave that one up. So a couple of notes in that game: Jonathan Toews with a goal and 2 assists in that game. And on Chicago's side, 12 different players had at least 1 point in that game. So it wasn't 1 or 2 guys that was doing all the scoring. It was definitely a mix of players. So ultimately a blowout win for Chicago. Now, speaking of blowouts, Bruins, Canucks. My intentions going to the Charlotte Checkers game was to come home from that game. It would have been midway to late first period by the time we got home from that game. And I was going to sit down and watch the rest of the Bruins game, even though I was actually working at 8 o'clock Eastern the next morning, going to my regular job. So if I were to watch this game, I would have stayed up till about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and, shortening myself on sleep. But needless to say, I didn't see any of this game, because by the time I got home, by the time we got to the end of the first period, it was 4-0 Vancouver. So when I saw that score, I decided, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm gonna just let that game go. So anyway, 6-1 was the final score. Tuukka Rask lasted just 8 shots, giving up 4 goals. Tuukka Rask giving up 8 shots on 4 goals on 8 shots, and Hudobin came in and made 13 saves the rest of the way. Nielsen in net for Vancouver made 44 saves, but if you look at it, it's kind of misleading. You'd think Boston outplayed Vancouver, but no. Once Vancouver got the big lead, they pretty much sat back and let the game play itself out, and Boston kept trying to getting a lot of shots on net, but they just weren't a lot of quality shots. So yeah, Boston did vastly outshoot Vancouver in this game, but the score on the scoreboard told pretty much the whole tale. And as another note, 11 different players on Vancouver's roster got at least a point in that game, so they spread the wealth quite nicely. Now, the last game of the night, Florida at Calgary. This was the 10 p.m. game. Well, this one was too, but they were both at 10. Luongo making his return to the Florida net that night. He makes 30 saves in his first game back, gets the win 6-3 over Calgary. Rittich in net for Calgary, and then Gillies came in relief after Rittich gave up 4 goals. Gillies got the other 2 against him. On a losing effort, though, on a good note, Dougie Hamilton got a hat trick in that game for Calgary. But it's hard to celebrate a hat trick when you're losing 6-3. But anyway, Florida still believes that they've got a shot at making the playoffs, and they have been playing very well of late in an attempt to do so. Calgary, on the other hand, is struggling to stay in the race, and one day they seem to be in the playoff hunt, the next day they're out. Right now they're a little bit out on the outside looking in, but they're still within striking distance of a playoff spot if they play well the rest of the way. All right, that is all for this video. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. If you liked it, go ahead and click the like button. If you really liked it, click subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.